If I could only buy 7 colours, these are the essentials that I would suggest you go with. This is very much a colour mixing palette. I basically mix all my colours from scratch and very rarely use anything directly from the tube. I think it's a very important skill to have, especially with watercolour. You can really reduce your costs here by buying fewer paints, namely, and wasting less paint as well, because you can just reconstitute it as you make it. If you had a look at my palette, it's an absolute mess, and I love it for it because I can always go back to those earthy tones. Our first colour here is the Daniel Smith Lemon Yellow. I actually agonised over my yellow quite a bit. I couldn't find the right mix of transparency, light fastness, and the quality on the page. I ended up landing on the lemon yellow though, and I'm happy with that as a solution. I tried the cadmium yellow light, cad yellow medium, Hansa yellow light, and a couple of others there as well. But the lemon yellow has been the right mix, the right fit for the mix. And there you go there. You can see my palette, and it is, plenty of watercolour teachers would be screaming at me, wipe that thing down right now. But I actually love coming back to it and reconstituting those colours, so I've got some earths right there ready to go. The next colour is the Quinacridone Gold. I use this almost like a yellow in my palette. It makes really fantastic olives and actually is a great contributor to making some more of the earthy red colours. Next up, we've got Quinacridone Rose, which I use as my primary magenta. And then we've changed it up here, Winsor & Newton Ultramarine, French Ultramarine, I should say. I actually did try the Ultramarine green shade, but I've come back to the French Ultramarine. You can see here I've had the Holbein, Daniel Smith, and the 2 different Winsor & Newtons. It's all part and parcel of this creative journey that we're on, trialing and testing different things. So if you don't like the Ultramarine from one particular brand, it might be worth trying a different one before you switch out that shade of blue altogether. Next up, we've got the Phthalo Blue. Phthalo Blue is a really beautiful, rich and staining blue. It doesn't granulate though, so the Ultra granulates and the Phthalo doesn't. Just going to mop up a little bit of an extra puddle there because I'm getting overly excited as I'm filming. Finally, up there we've got the Payne's Grey. I use this almost like a black, but I also find it really good for just knocking the saturation out of some of the other colours quickly to get a more earthy tone. And then I've also got the Burnt Umber. So that's my one true earth in there. I guess you'd probably call the Quinacridone Gold an earth colour too, but the Burnt Umber is a bit of a classic. And then from here, let's mix some colours. And would you believe that the very first one we go with is red? Yes, you can make red. You don't have to buy it. Red is actually a tertiary colour. It is not a primary. Although we've been taught that all the way since primary school, I think, this is one of the fundamental learnings from colour mixing, is that things that we think we know may not actually be the truth. So here's some beautiful red shades for you. I find the reds really interesting to mix because you just get the exact shade that you want. And even more importantly, the greens, because you will notice in my set of 7 there is not one single green, but there are a lot of ingredients to make excellent greens. So I can use the Quinacridone Gold or the Lemon Yellow for the yellow portion of the paint, and then I can mix it with either the Ultra, the Phthalo, or the Payne's Grey, because the Payne's Grey has a blue undertone, to create all different shades of green. And there's just like a myriad of greens that you can mix. I think the problem with green tube paint is you can almost always tell it's green tube paint. It has this sort of synthetic feeling to it. So if you can learn how to mix greens and discover greens, work with greens that you've made from scratch, I think it has a really profound impact on your artwork. I think it's one of the key skills. So I could probably live without any tube of green paint ever. I do currently have some in my palette at the moment, but I don't know if I'd even replace them. I think it's a better habit to build to make the greens, not just squeeze them out of a tube. All right, from here, the next little grouping of colours that's probably missing to your eye are the purples. I originally did really want to include Imperial Purple into this top 8, but you actually can make it quite easily with Quinacridone Rose and Phthalo Blue. It's something that I use regularly though, so rather than mixing it every single time, like if you really do lean on a certain colour throughout your work, then it does make sense to include it in your palette, so you don't have to waste so much time mixing. But you never know what you might stumble upon as well whilst you're mixing. So it is definitely something that I recommend to sort of play around with a lot. like these more plummy purples. I think they're such a nice way to integrate more peachy tones, like in those lighter tones in there. You can get some really, really soft peachy colours, which is so nice to work with in the botanical world. You don't need to go and buy a tube of peach paint, which has got heaps of white filler in it, and it sort of sits on the surface of the paper. I definitely have a preference for transparent paint, so where you can see the paper through. It gives it a luminosity that I don't think you can get when you have opaque paints. All right, so from here, let's just do a couple more, because why not? We've got to fill up this page now, don't we? We've committed. I did really want to showcase to you, though, that with just a few colours, you can create so much magic on the page, and you can save money because you're not going to be spending so much on paint. You tend to waste less paint because you have fewer paints to choose from, so you don't squeeze it all out and then rinse it down the drain the minute you've finished painting. One of the big benefits with watercolour, obviously, is that you can let it dry and reconstitute it with water. So these tubes I have squeezed into a palette, and then I work with it largely dry. And then here's some more beautiful blushy tones. I love all those colours for, say, like roses and camellias and things like that. And then, finally, there's one colour that you may have noticed is missing altogether. And that would be black. And I think a lot of people were wondering, like, why wouldn't you include black in your mixture of paints? Because it's obviously something that a lot of people would use regularly. But in fact, you can mix it, which I think is something that maybe goes astray in the colour mixing theory. But create an equal combination of your three primary colours, your yellow, magenta and blue, and you will get a beautiful, rich, dense black. So you never have to worry about even buying black. There you go. There you have it. I hope that's blown your mind a little bit, but I just love being able to create all these things with just a very limited set of tools there. I hope by watching this video I've managed to quell some of that angst that happens at the art store, and you can make a more informed purchase. I think colour mixing and your colour language is such an important part of your journey, and adapting and working with different colours, trialling new things is a really important part of the process. If you've enjoyed this video and enjoyed watching a bit of colour mixing, I do have an online course called The Magic of Colour Mixing. I'll link it below, and you can also watch a preview just up here. If you have any questions whatsoever, please just drop me a comment or send me an email. I'm more than happy to help. I just love talking about art materials and sharing knowledge. I think it's such a beneficial and awesome thing to do in the art community. It can be quite a solo journey, you know. And besides that, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. Happy painting!